Beyond the headlines. This is World Insight.
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. U.S. President Donald Trump wrapped up his China state visit on Friday. The two leaders, President Xi Jinping of China and President Trump, agreed to build a constructive, strategically stable relationship. Foreign Minister Wang Yi of China called the meeting historic, noting it charts the course of bilateral ties. Mechanisms are already in motion, launching the Trade and Investment Councils, advancing tariff adjustments to carry out consensus. China's Ministry of Commerce also over the weekend announced the preliminary outcomes of China-U.S. economic and trade consultations. Leaders meeting often play a crucial role in exchanges. China has been rolling out the red carpet for many from all over the world, and this week for Russian President Vladimir Putin. For the 25th time. On these, I had a conversation with a seasoned Chinese diplomat, Cui Jiankai, now the advisor of the Chinese People's Institute of Foreign Affairs Council. He is the longest-serving former Chinese ambassador to the United States since China's reform and opening up, who served through President Trump's first term as well. Let's listen in. Now, China-U.S. meeting between the two heads of state wrapped up successfully.
Yeah.
From both sides, it seemed quite positive comments. What is your takeaway about the nature of this meeting in retrospect?
It is really a historic and landmark one, especially when we consider the turbulences in China-U.S. relations in recent years and the turbulences and uncertainties we are still facing in the world today.
But do you see it as a contract-based discussion and meeting, or is it a very strategic one that's likely to outline the nature of relations between these two powers?
I think that the two leaders have given us a new vision, a constructive strategic stability. I think that this clearly defines China-U.S. relations in the coming years. And I think both sides are making real efforts to overcome the so-called fastidious trap. And I'm quite confident the Chinese people and the American people will have the wisdom, will have the vision to overcome such traps. Actually, if we look at history, people very often trap themselves. If you have a right vision, if you have a right approach, if you are open, if you base yourself, your policies on the realities of the world, then you could make the right choice. People could fall into traps when they don't have the right vision, when they don't have the right approach, when they are no longer constructive.
But do you think both sides have realized the realities, especially after the so-called tug of war or wrestling over the past few months?
The relations are at least closer to the realities than a few years before.
It is lack of confidence between the two sides. Now, that's not a state secret. Everybody knows it, right? But then the thing is, when you have quite a momentum as that being built over the past few days during the visit by U.S. President Trump to China, how to implement those consensus? How is China aware of the flip-flop phenomenon that the U.S. administration had over the past several engagements? And how is China watching very closely and carefully about what exactly is the action coming from the U.S.?
Well, I think lack of trust between the two sides. This is not only not a secret, but this is a huge challenge you have to face. I think in the last few days during President Trump's visit, a lot of goodwill has been expressed by both sides. Now, the next thing is for good faith. We'll wait and see. And I would expect the two sides would honor their commitment. The words will be matched by actions. This is how two great countries, the way the two great countries should deal with each other. And of course, in the coming days and years, there will continue to be challenges. And maybe lack of trust is one of them. And sometimes no sufficient level of good faith would be one of them. But I think we can deal with these challenges together. We can prove to the world that when there is political will, when there is good faith by both sides, we can overcome such difficulties, we can gradually enhance mutual trust. We can even turn challenges into opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Some scholars in the U.S. suggest there is a difference in China's expressing the nature of the meeting and the U.S. Expressing the nature of the meeting at different levels. For example, they suggest that U.S. focusing mainly on the real concrete deals, as they say, the so-called 5 Bs, you know, the beans, the oil, and the things goes on. But the Chinese side seemed to suggest very strategically about the nature of this meeting.
Well, I think direct communication, face-to-face meetings between the two presidents, these things themselves are of strategic nature. Mm-hmm. They always give strategic guidance to the overall relations. I don't think any specific agreement or so-called deals could be made without such strategic communication.
Right. China has already suggested it accepted the U.S. president's invite for a state visit in autumn. Mr. Ambassador, you have seen the ups and downs of Chinese-U.S. relations from now until then, preparing for a state visit. What do you think can be the step-by-step preparations, while at the same time watching the sincerity from the other side?
Well, I think it's very good that we should have such frequent exchange of visits at such high level. Mm-hmm. It will do a lot of good to the bilateral relations and to the world. So I'm quite sure both sides are making preparations for future visits. And we should make sure that these visits will achieve what we want them to achieve. Of course, nobody should have the illusion that from now on everything would just be fine. It's all smooth sailing.
That's too naive. Yeah?
That's really naive. And that is not the reality of China-US relations. We will have problems, we will have difficulties. Who knows, maybe a third party could create some surprise for both countries. So we are prepared to deal with any such surprises or problems or difficulties as long as the two sides remain committed to the agreement reached between the two presidents in the last few days. I'm sure we could move forward, we can solve problems and have what we call steady, sound, and sustainable development of China-US relations. Over the decades, we always have this goal in mind, and China has made consistent efforts toward that goal.
The Taiwan question first. Mr. Ambassador, this is the core of China's core interest, as the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs put it. So what has been achieved out of this meeting?
I think we have made it clear that the Taiwan question is always the most important issue in China-US relations. And I think our guests have got very deep impression with this. Now we are talking about China-US relations of constructive strategic stability. It would be impossible to imagine such a stability without a good commitment to the One China principle and stability in the Taiwan Strait.
Right.
That's quite clear.
What about the Strait of Hormuz?
I think we have also made our position very clear to the entire world. President Xi put forward 4 principles. Foreign Minister Wang Yi, in his meeting with the Pakistani Foreign Minister, put forward 5 ideas. The main thing is that we want to see peace restored, fighting and killing stopped, and navigation in the strait also restored. And people should sit down and negotiate and talk to each other, not trying to kill each other. That's quite clear.
So what kind of role does China aspire to play in terms of making sure the navigation in the Strait of Hormuz will be free?
Well, first of all, we always stand for international law, for the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, and for respect of sovereignty of all countries. And number 2, we always stand for peaceful solution to any possible conflicts, clashes whatsoever. And number 3, we will do whatever we can to facilitate, to help the parties concerned to sit down and negotiate, to talk to each other, to find a political solution. But of course, it's not entirely up to us. It's never easy to address such problems. It's rather complicated, and the interests of different parties are involved. But still, conflicts and use of force will offer no way out. Only peaceful negotiations would give us a possibility for solution.
What about technology? That is really a key question. Many term that as competition between the two and probably even rivalry. What is your take, Mr. Ambassador? What has been achieved on that front?
You see, I think at least most countries, especially the big economies, maybe all of them want to be the world leader in technology. That's natural. And inevitably, there will be some competition among them, not only between China and the United States, but also with other players. This is normal. As long as such competition is open and fair, as long as such competition will follow the same set of rules, there's no double standards. As long as the goal, the long-term goal, is to help human progress, to bring benefits to people all over the world. I think if we could base the competition on these principles, on such a vision, then competition would be a good thing, would be a very healthy thing. And I think between China and the United States, whatever competition we might have in technology, it could give us a very good opportunity to prove what we are saying now, cooperation as the mainstay, and competition within proper limits. That's part of the definition for the new vision.
That is a good picture, but what about specifically the two H200 chips that has been widely reported, and also from the Chinese side, the concern about the U.S. export control to China?
I think the two economics teams are dealing with these issues together. And they are engaged in very frequent and very serious and very professional discussion. Of course, maybe they could and should make further progress. But I trust the two teams are very competent and very committed to such exchanges.
A tale of love, peace, and friendship.
Dear Grandpa Tree, I wish that we could stay friends forever. Me, Dashan, and Haiyan.
Friends forever!
Friends forever.
Based on real events, Echoes of Kuliang, a radio drama series, relates the warm and vibrant life stories of the Kuliang friends set in the historical tapestry of the 20th century.
Match!
We'll gather the balls for you! Let's see if we can catch some big fish and ask my mom to make some fishbowl soup tonight.
Do you guys know what I can do?
Bình bình an an,平安平安 symbolizing being safe.
床前明月光，疑是地上霜。举头望明月 on my bed， 思故乡。
With spellbinding performances and immersive sound effects, CGTN Radio presents you Echoes of Kuliang, available on radio.cgtn.com and all major podcast platforms.
Such a beautiful story.
Follow Echoes of Kuliang as it unfolds across generations, bridging continents and cultures in a celebration of love, friendship, and the enduring spirit of home.
Hometown.
How far we apart, Kuliang, where we call it home.
There has been a lot of discussion about what AI would mean for all of us. I understand, Mr. Ambassador, you have been participating actively in the Track 2 discussion about AI governance and AI safety between China and the United States. Can you give us, to the extent that you can, what exactly is the nature of discussion in that Track 2? How are you contributing to the policymakers in terms of their increasing exchanges on the same topic?
You see, there was a book, I think the last book written by Dr. Henry Kissinger together with Mr. Craig Mundy and Mr. Eric Schmidt. According to the authors of the book, there are two alignments we have to deal with. Mm-hmm. The first alignment is the technical alignments of human values and intentions with actions of AI. The second alignment is diplomatic alignment of human beings with fellow humans.
Right.
I think the second alignment could be even more important than the first one. How we as human beings, whether we are Chinese, Americans, or Europeans, or whatsoever, how we look at this new technology, how we see ourselves, see the relations between human being and the technology. Can we work together to make sure that technology, AI, is for good? It will bring benefits to the entire humanity. It will not lead to the result of widened gap, wealth gap, digital gap, or even AI gap between societies and within societies. Of course, there will be some competition in technology itself, maybe some competition in the applications of the new technology. But we should always keep this overall goal, the long-term goal in mind. We should work for human progress, for human well-being.
So what about that urgency vis-a-vis the still lack of any policy alignment between the two largest AI powers in the world, China and United States?
Well, I think it's really alarming that there has been some attempt to use the new technology not for constructive purposes, but for destructive purposes. Yeah. That is very alarming. That's why President Xi has put forward the global initiative on governance of AI.
Right.
We still believe that we should work together to make sure AI for good. China is firmly committed to this principle, and we will do whatever we can.
Now, in the press briefing given by the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, he mentioned about several areas, in fact, quite a number of areas that both leaders, heads of state, have already agreed upon to increase exchanges. Diplomacy, military, economic and trade, of course, people to people. Given the reality, as you mentioned earlier, where we are, we're still at the very initial stage of rebuilding a little bit trust between the two sides. Can these things happen all at the same time, particularly from now until autumn?
Well, now we have a new vision for China-U.S. relations.
Constructive strategic stability.
A relationship of constructive strategic stability. But for this relationship to stand, it will need more pillars. And the areas you just listed, they are all pillars to support, to consolidate the building of this relationship. If we want to move the relations forward on the track of constructive strategic stability, these areas, what we do in these areas, could be the so-called propellers to push it forward. So we really have to make new progress in all these areas, maybe particularly in people-to-people exchanges, especially between the younger generation, because they are the future.
After top diplomacy between the two presidents, here comes the process of bureaucracies on both sides implementing the consensus, sometimes even disrupted by third parties, as you described earlier. So how can we be confident this time that it will be done?
Well, I think as far as the Chinese side is concerned, we always honor our commitments. We always mean what we say, and we always do what we say. I don't think it will be different this time. And we would expect the U.S. side to do the same.
I see you're very polite in expressing your expectations. No hard feelings at all, despite some of the flip-flops phenomena by the U.S. side earlier.
We have come a long way to this summit, to this new vision and the important agreement between the two presidents. Right. We have overcome so many difficulties. Nothing is easy. Maybe no good thing would be easy.
That's true. We heard Chinese President in his interaction with the US president, talking about China's rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and President Trump's Make America Great Again. These two visions actually could go hand in hand.
Yes.
And not only for two countries, but also for the peace and development of the world. Can you give us more in-depth analysis as to what this could mean?
Well, you see, maybe all countries at different times would be at a critical juncture of its own development. For China, we are moving forward to a second centenary goal. And for America, as you said, they want to make America great again. Well, it's good. We have our own national goals to achieve. Right. But if the two countries can really work together, can see each other's success as great opportunities, then each would be better able to achieve its own goals. I'm quite sure of that. So we never believe in zero-sum mentality. We never believe that any country's success should be at the expense of any other countries. So hopefully China and the United States could set a good example to the world that the two great countries, the two biggest economies, the two permanent members of the UN Security Council, despite all the differences between us, we can still work together and we can still support each other in the achievement of its own national goals. And together we'll do a much better job, not only for ourselves, but make the world better for everybody.
You are very positive, sir, I find. But some may find it surprising because you served during the first term of Trump administration as China's ambassador to the United States. Those were, difficult years, to say the least, challenging years between the two countries.
China-US relations have come a long, long way over the decades. Remember, in the 1950s and 60s, for 22 years, there was no ties between the two countries. But things gradually changed. And even since the normalization of the relations, there have been ups and downs. Sometimes we encounter very serious problems, major difficulties. But still, I think basically the leaders of the two countries have in their mind the long-term goal, the growing common interests between China and America. And they guided us in moving forward, overcoming all the difficulties and making new progress. Sometimes, you see, between China and the United States, such two very different countries, problems will be inevitable. Difficulties will be inevitable. But as long as we are committed to deal with these things together in a constructive manner, such difficulties and challenges will in the end only prove the strength and resilience of the relations.
As we know, the Chinese leader Xi Jinping met with many heads of states in earlier weeks before the US president's state visit to China, and that diplomatic agenda will continue. This week, we're already embracing the state visit by the Russian president to China, and the two countries are celebrating different anniversaries during this year. Meanwhile, there are other heads of states coming up also to Beijing. So, Mr. Ambassador, how do you see China is painting its picture about diplomacy, about its way, its framing of what the world should be like, and China's role in that regard?
I think China wants to build good relationships with all the other countries. You see, President Xi has put forward the goal of building a community of a shared future for the mankind. And this global community of a shared future will certainly, of course, including China itself, United States, Russia, and the global South countries, and the Europeans, and you see our neighboring countries, and so on and so forth. So, and that's why President Xi has put forward 4 global initiatives. The global initiative, the global development initiative, the global security initiative, the global civilization initiative, and the global governance initiative. So perspective is global. Our approach is cooperative. It's open to all the other countries, everybody, including the United States, including Russia. And this year we have had quite a number of leaders from Europe, from the global south visiting China. And in the coming months, there might be more. And we'll host APEC leaders meeting in November.
Right.
So China is doing all this to contribute to the process of building a community of a shared future for the mankind. And we'll continue to do that. We are really open to good relations with everybody else.
Ambassador Cui Tiankai, always a pleasure. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on X and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of the team. Thanks for being with us.